Welcome again. This is Robert Allen, your real estate mentor, teaching you how to be successful in your real estate investing. And then if you use the principles for real estate investing, you should be able to use those same fundamental principles in every other area of your life. Now, I'm imagining that your real estate investing is probably not taking up every single moment of every single day. You're not doing this full time. You're probably doing this 5 to 10 hours a week. So you have a life. You got a job, you got maybe another business that you're running, and you're doing some real estate investing on the side till eventually, I think if you're smart, you'll be doing real estate investing full time. But more than likely as a beginner, and I'm about 90% of the people that I share these concepts with on this Bobcast are beginners. They've purchased between 1 and 5 properties, maybe 0 and 5 properties. And so I'm going to ask you that question. Where are you in this process? Are you a beginner? Are you intermediate? Are you advanced? If you're a beginner, more than likely you bought between 0 and 5 properties. If you're intermediate, you bought between 5 and maybe 50 properties. And if you're advanced, you bought 50 to 100 plus properties. Well, eventually you want to get to the advanced stage, don't you? You want to be probably full time at this. But in the meantime, while you're squeezing your real estate investing into your life, you've got to make sure that you get those 5 to 10 hours done properly and efficiently. Let's use that word. So today I'm going to talk to you about a concept I call RGAs, results generating activities. Just happens to be my initials, but this is a concept that I've been teaching for many years until I finally realized, hey, those are my initials. A results generating activity is something that generates a real result, not an imaginary result. And so when people describe their activities to you when it comes to their investing in real estate, if I were to, coach you or question you about what you're doing for those 5 to 10 hours a week, you'd probably throw out a lot of things that you're doing that you think are going to eventually result in maybe you buying your first property, your second or third or fourth or fifth, that you've learned how to manage those properties, that those properties are increasing in value, that your net worth is going up, yada, yada, yada. And then you'd probably give me things like, well, I read your book, Bob. Nothing Down, Creating Wealth, Multiple Streams of Income, The 1 Minute Millionaire. All these books talk about real estate as an investment and other investments as well. But I'm going to tell you something that might shock you. You reading any of these books or going to any of my seminars or even coaching or becoming part of a mastermind that we have here, the Genius Network. If you are part of those entities, but are not doing results generating activities, then those things really are not going to generate the results you want. What do you want? You want to buy a property. So if you're reading a book, does that buy you a property is what I'm trying to point out to you. No. Reading a book or going to a seminar doesn't buy you a property. It might increase your knowledge. It might make you a little more confident, but confident in doing what? Doing the results generating activities that will eventually lead to you walking into a closing at a title company somewhere and sitting down and having that title transferred to you. So it becomes your property or the entity, whatever entity you've chosen to put that property in. The bottom line is, does reading my book get you to sit in a closing office, getting your name on a piece of real estate? No, it doesn't. If you just read the book and that's all you do, you have more knowledge, but if you haven't done certain activities, then you've not done enough. I have lots of people, they go to seminars and they get overwhelmed with too much knowledge. Because if you learned about not learning anything in your life, if you begin to learn something where you knew nothing about it before, your knowledge increases. And so you now become more knowledgeable. But then you begin to realize, there are more things to learn that I don't know yet. So you go read another book or go to another seminar or coach with somebody else. And what you have is your brain, your knowledge base is expanding, it's increasing. But as you learn more things, you begin to realize there is so much more to learn. It's almost like the way I teach it is you start off with a pea brain, and inside that pea represents all you know about that subject, and the outside of the pea represents the connection with all you don't know. And so if you want to learn more, if you want to get enough to really become rich, then you have to go. You realize that I need to know more. So you go to another seminar. You filled your information up to become the size of, let's say, a lemon brain. A lemon, you can imagine a lemon. Everything that's inside the lemon represents what you now know, the new stuff you've now learned. But the circumference of the lemon comes in contact with more things you don't know. So what's the antidote to that? Well, let's go learn some more, right? And so you learn some more and you find out, you go to a seminar, you read 5 more books, you talk to 50 more people at a mastermind you belong to, your brain starts to expand in that area. It becomes a grapefruit brain now. Everything that's inside the grapefruit represents what you know, but the grapefruit now comes in contact, the circumference of the grapefruit now comes in contact with more things that you don't know. It's almost as if the more you know, the more you realize there is to know. And the more you fill your brain up with more information, you begin to realize, so it becomes a watermelon brain. You got everything that's inside, all this stuff, but the circumference now comes in contact with hundreds of more ideas and thoughts and questions you've got, and you begin to say, I don't know enough. Well, how do you know enough? If you keep learning and expanding so that the circumference of your knowledge becomes in contact with all those other millions of ideas that exist in the real estate world, there are thousands of books and hundreds of seminars and all kinds of little different slices of information when it comes to the real estate world. You can't know it all. When do you know enough then? Well, you're going to have to take a few basic concepts and become expert at them, because you can't know it all. You can hire somebody who knows it all. And in a previous Bobcast, I talked about how you acquire a network of people who know more than you do. Your title company officer, your real estate agent, a banker, a mortgage broker, a mentor that you have. They all know more than you do. And after years and years and years of experience, and even they don't know it all. But you need to know enough so that you'll take action. And I've always asked this question in a seminar. I always ask people, when do you know enough? And, tell me, when do you think you know enough? They'll tell me, well, when you're willing, when you're no longer afraid. And I'm going to tell you, you'll always have fear. So you'll never get over that one. When you're confident, no, you're never going to get confident enough either, because the bigger deals you do, you're still going to end up into your out of your comfort zone, into the opportunity zone where it's fearful, and so you're never going to be confident enough. You're never going to be lack fear. There's always going to be something that you're probably not going to know, and the only way you know that you know enough is you're willing to take action, knowing that you don't know enough. And that's concept is called faith. That means the willingness to step out beyond your current knowledge into the opportunity zone, crossing the line from your comfort zone into the fear zone or the opportunity zone. And you're going to be out there all the time, bumping into opportunity and still not knowing all there is to know about that particular subject. If you're a multiple streamer, you're going to do real estate investing. And then if you expand your knowledge, you're going to go into commercial real estate or, all kinds of other different kinds of real estate, development of real estate, developing land into to lots that you can build houses on. You're never going to know enough. You're always going to feel like there's something more you need to know. And this little voice in your head says you don't know enough. And what I'm trying to tell you is the only way to know enough is to be willing to act knowing you don't know enough. Willing to take action on faith that you'll figure it out. And that's what an entrepreneur does. They just are willing to act, to risk out into the opportunity zone, outside their comfort zone, willing to take risk. That's what risk is. When you're acting, not knowing enough, there's no place in your life where there'll be no risk. Therefore, there's always going to be things you don't know, and you're just going to have to figure it out. Bring on a team of people that can help you, or if you're doing this all by yourself, you're just going to have to figure it out. Read more books, get a mentor that can help you. Watch some more of these Bobcasts. What I'm trying to say is the reason that most people get stuck in reading my books, I'm not trying to take the opportunity for you to read or study or doing any of the things that we do in teaching people how to succeed in real estate, but just realizing that if you don't understand this little concept I just taught you, that you'll end up feeding yourself with more knowledge and not feeling as if you know enough, because the more you know, the less you know. It's just the concept of life. We're put here on this earth to figure things out and not to know so much that we don't take action. And that's why you have lots of professors in the university who know more about their subject than anybody in the world, and yet they don't take action on what they know. You have to take action. You have to do what I call a results-generating activity. So what is that? That's an opportunity to get a yes or a no. Therefore, when you do enough study and learning and action taking that somebody is going to say yes or no to you, that's a result-generating activity. For example, you're going to do some research. You're going to try to find a property that's located in your city or somewhere in the United States or somewhere in the world where you're buying real estate. You're going to find a property you think is a bargain. You're going to find it using one of the 9 ways of finding highly motivated sellers. I will talk to that into another Bobcast at another time, but you'll find that property. How will you find it? Well, you'll do some research. You'll do some looking. You'll talk to real estate agents, for instance, and the agents will show you a property. And is that enough? Well, just the fact that they showed you the property is nice. It's getting you closer to what? To taking a results-generating activity. So going from book knowledge to real experience knowledge is a leap of faith. So you now reach out and talk to somebody that's in the real estate world. You tell them about some of your goals. You like to buy a property with little or no money down. If you're talking to real estate agents, they're going to tell you, I can guarantee this, they're going to say that doesn't work. They're going to say, oh, that doesn't work, because that's not the way we do it in our system. We're looking for people who have proper down payments for bank loans that they get, who have lots of credit and cash flow, collateral, etc., credit, and that's who they want to deal with. And if you show up saying, I want to buy a property with nothing down, just the fact that you say that will open up the opportunity for them to reject you and for them to reject your plan, what you say you want to do. And therefore, you are literally interacting with somebody where there is a rejection possibility. That's a results-generating activity. Because if they reject you, what's your answer to that? Well, if you're not confident, a little fearful, and an expert who you think knows more than you do. They probably know a lot more than you do about the real estate world. And they tell you that it's not possible to do what you know you want to do, what I'm teaching you how to do, then you're going to take that rejection and you're going to do one of two things with it. Either you're going to believe what they say and you'll get discouraged. You go back home, put the books on the shelf, and you've reached out into the world. You got a rejection. It didn't work. You quit. You stop. Or, remember, in every interaction, there's a buyer and a seller. So if you say to some real estate agent who you're trying to find the right agent to help you look for real estate deals, and if you talk to one real estate agent who doesn't seem to believe what you know is true, I'm going to tell you, is it possible to buy real estate with little or no money down? Absolutely. I have thousands of success stories all over the world of people who've done that and brag to me about it. So if somebody tells you it doesn't work, that it can't be done, that they don't want to be your guy or gal to help you accomplish that, then your answer to that is next, you go look for another agent. You don't buy what they're selling. You have to sell them what you're willing to buy. You're going to say to them, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Have a nice day. Here's my business card. If you ever find a great deal that you feel I might be willing to buy, and just off to the next agent. How many agents are there in your city? Thousands. Thousands. So if one person says no to you, next. But if you allow that person to sell you that what you're talking about, what you're hoping to do can't be done, and you allow them to change your belief system in yourself, well, that's tragic. And I will not allow it. If you're my student, you cannot do that. You just have to go find somebody else. Then you talk to another real estate agent, for instance. You tell them, I want to buy a property this year. You tell them about your dream. You tell them clearly, I have a 5-year goal. My goal is I want to be financially free. I want to own. How many properties do you want to own? I want to own 50 doors in real estate. Where will you be living when you're doing this? What kind of home do you want to live in? In other words, if they will help you accomplish your dream, they'll be involved in a lot of real estate transactions through you. In other words, they're going to win when you win. They get commissions on every property that you buy. So would you want to deal with somebody who had a negative perception of what you're trying to accomplish? They want to tell you, they might be telling you that you can't do these 10 properties you say you're going to buy, or these 50 doors you want to acquire, the dream home you want to be living in 5 years from now. They'll have part of all of that. So if they're not part of your dream, if they don't believe it, you don't want to deal with them another minute. You don't want to hang around people who do not believe in your dream. Okay, so you go find another one. And so say that one doesn't seem to work out very well. They've never done a real estate investment before themselves. So what could they be teaching you about the real estate investing world? Maybe that's not the right realtor. Go find another realtor until you go through enough searching and finding until you start put together a team. Those are results generating activities because they require interaction with real people. Now, when I look at when I go to a bank, for instance, and they have a real estate owned department, these are properties that the bank has foreclosed on and taken back. The bank's real estate owned department fluctuates up and down in the real estate foreclosure world because they make mortgages. They lend money to people who want to buy real estate, right? But if the person doesn't make their payments, they take it back. They foreclose on it. And it comes back into their department. Do they want those properties? No, they don't want them. They really want the monthly payments and the interest that are generated from that. They don't want to end that property back in their portfolio. It's the last thing they want. They're highly motivated to sell, and therefore they get it back. You talk to a bank or a mortgage company, and you try to find out who is the person who handles your foreclosures. You'll probably have a dozen people in that bank will shift you to this department or that department, and maybe you don't really end up with the right person in that mortgage company or that bank. You got to go find another one. You're looking for that person who is the person who represents the bank's agent for getting rid of real estate. It could possibly be that the bank doesn't have an employee that handles their foreclosures. Maybe they have a real estate company that they have had good experience with. Well, find out what that company is. Find out who the realtor that handles this bank's foreclosures is, and go talk to that person. And what if that person doesn't want to talk to you? Has enough people who want to buy so that they don't want to interact with you. Do you give up on the first no? Do you give it up on the second no? Do you give up on the third no? Because every no is a results generating activity. Do you give up on the fourth no? No, you don't. You're going to keep going until eventually you're going to get to become close to that person. So that person realizes that you are not just a fly-by-night investor that's going to come and go, that you're there to help them get rid of the properties that they don't want. And you'll not be the only person there. There may be dozens of people on their list of people they would talk to, but you figure out a way to get there, and that's a results-generating activity. But if you read a book about how to find real estate by talking to the real estate owned agents in your banks or mortgage companies, if you read a book about it and learn about how to learn about the fact that there is a person like that, but don't do anything to contact that person, that's not enough. You have to find them, dig them out, persistent until you get it, persistent until you get through a barrage of no's. Maybe you give up at that particular bank because it just doesn't seem like they're willing to talk to a new person like you. Well, then how many banks are there in your city? How many mortgage companies are there in the United States or in your country, wherever you are? There are hundreds. So don't tell me that you tried it. You tried it once and it didn't work. I'm going to tell you that if you got a no and you took that no as a final no, and you decided that doesn't work anymore, you haven't done enough. You haven't failed enough. You haven't had enough no's. You haven't had enough rejections, because there are lending institutions that have people who represent the bank to get rid of the properties that they don't want anymore. And like I say, this number fluctuates depending upon the cycle. And in the seller's market, which we are in now, where it seems like any seller who puts their property on the market, it gets snapped up almost immediately. Well, guess what? There are going to be a heck of a lot less foreclosures during markets like that. But there still are foreclosures. They're just, 1/10 of what they were maybe 5 years ago. And 10 years ago, they're 1/100th of what they were 10 years ago. Will this cycle eventually cycle back to where it's a buyer's market, where people are not looking as much as they used to, where maybe the baby boomers have moved through to the next phase, and now the next group of people who are real estate investors are no longer involved or interested in real estate? Will this cycle change? Yes, it will. Something will cause it to shut off. It happens about every 10 years, 5 to 10 years, 5 to 12 years. And we're in a part of the real estate cycle where some techniques are more difficult to do, but you still have to try them. You have to get some experience in them. You have to get the results generating activities. So looking with real people through however you look, whether it's through banks or real estate agents or running your own advertising in the paper. There are 9 ways of doing it, which I'm not going to go into detail with it today. But what I'll tell you is you have to be out into the real world, talking with real people who own real estate and getting real yeses, maybes, and nos. You have to get, that's a results generating activity. So the first part of that is looking. The second part of it is doing what I call a bargain finder. That's how do you know this is a real estate deal, a good real estate deal? Because if there are thousands of property for sale all across the United States or your country, how do you know if it's a good deal or not? Prices are being pushed up. People are bidding the prices up. They are speculating. They're hoping these prices will, they'll finally get in. This is what we call a FOMO market, their fear of missing out. Everybody's jumping in and hoping that they buy a property at an increased price and eventually it'll increase even more. We've been through that many times, these cycles. And the cycle will not last. It'll eventually peter out. Another type of investment, crypto, will come along, and everyone will go rushing off to crypto. Real estate and how you find it, and then how you evaluate it, are parts of the results generating activities. Got to look. Number 2, got to evaluate. Got to do a bargain finder. A bargain finder is asking 5 questions about that property. What is its price? What are the terms that a seller wants to sell on? All cash, or will they carry any financing? What's the location? What is the condition of that property? And finally, what is the motivation that would cause that person to want to sell? Is there a reason why they need to sell? What is their flexibility? And these 5 areas are what I call the bargain finder. And I'm not going to go into the bargain finder in this session either. In the next session, I'll go into the 9 ways of finding highly motivated sellers, and then we'll have another session where I talk about the bargain finder. But the bargain finder means if a property scores 11 or less, or 10 or less, you don't write an offer on it. You are not interested at all, because by doing a bargain finder, there's a scoring system. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to teach you that scoring system right now, but I'm trying to tell you that the steps of a results generating activity would be to get its bargain finder score. In other words, did it score an 11, a 12, a 13, a 14, a 15? Good. Let's go write an offer. If it scored 10 or less, no, we're not going to write an offer. So it's like very simple decision-making process. But what if you haven't scored it? You don't know enough. And therefore, if you haven't scored it, you haven't done the results generating activity to move you to the next stage of the real estate investment process. You got to score it. Okay. Promise you, next time we'll go into the bargain finder. But for this time, if you've scored it, now you know whether you should write an offer on it or not. Okay? That's enough information that way, because we scored it. It scored, let's say, a 12. Okay, now having taken that next results generating activity, the next major activity is to write an offer on that property, or at least verbally make an offer on that property to the real seller or to the realtor that's involved. In other words, if you don't write or make verbal offers, you don't know enough information. You haven't done enough. You haven't taken it to the stage where you got a yes or a no. And if you get a no, that's good. That's great, because at least they let you know that what you're offering doesn't work for them. It's not a win-win for them. And therefore, you tell them, thank you very much. I appreciate that. No. Good. Now remember, I'm a buyer, and I'll buy your property at the terms that I made it for you. I've given you a written offer. You have countered, you've actually rejected that offer, and therefore I want you to keep that offer. Put that in your files. Who knows that things come up? People get sick, people get transferred, the decision gets changed. Maybe there's a divorce that happens, and therefore you've pulled the property off the market for whatever reason. Eventually that offer might potentially be good for you. But about 1 in 100 offers that you write like that will ultimately and eventually, maybe months, years later, actually turn into an offer that they might accept. And I could just go into all kinds of stories about that, of students who have done what I told them to do. Write offers, get rejected, tell them that the offer still stands, and that if they ever want to pursue further, you're there, you're available. And having had lots of students come to me and tell me that eventually the offer that they wrote became a real offer that the seller finally decided to accept, even after having rejected it. I think I've told you a story about Sir Richard Branson, who went to the Caribbean and made an offer on Necker Island, and he made a ridiculously low offer, and it was rejected. And he tracked down the actual owner in England months later and told him about the offer he had written, that the offer had never been presented to him, and he rejected it again. He said, no, I would never accept an offer like that. And so Richard said, well, if you ever want to sell, this is my price. And it was like 1/10 of what its value was. And eventually he had an emergency where he needed some cash, and he didn't really need the island, didn't care about it. I really don't know the whole story, except to say that the offer was eventually accepted at a price that was ridiculously low. So you just never know. You have to plant that seed. Sometimes the seed will die. Sometimes the seed will remain alive and eventually sprout into a real estate deal that you love. And like I said, I've had story after story after story of people. A gal from Korea who worked at a post office as a post office clerk made an offer on a property that was being listed as a foreclosure through a bank, and her offer was rejected. After all of the dozens of offers that came in, hers was the second offer that was made at that time, and the winning offer, who beat her out, eventually went into it, started fixing it up, made some improvements. Something came up in their life. They gave the property back to the bank. They said, we don't want it anymore. For whatever reason. All I know is the bank called her next because her offer was second in line. And they gave her a day to produce the money to be able to buy an unbelievable deal. And she found the money and put it together and made a very nice chunk of profit because she was second in line. So if you don't make offers, you can't have that as a possibility. So most of the time, in our case, when we did lots of serious tracking of our students, we would find that they would make about 8 offers before they would get an offer accepted. That means we'd have 7 rejections. Most beginning real estate investors won't even do one. Why? Well, because they don't think they know enough. And therefore, they get afraid, they back away, they go to another seminar. Well, they're going to learn things in that seminar. They're going to expand their knowledge base, but eventually it's going to come to the point where they got to get back out into the world and write an offer, talk to a realtor, get rejected, until 8 offers later, rejection, 8 offers later, finally something comes through. Or one of the offers that they wrote finally comes to fruition. In our case of our Korean gal, Miss Kim was her name. She had written like 60 offers, 60, and hadn't gotten one accepted. But months later, the second offer, actually the first offer she wrote was on the bank deal I just explained to you. Months later, it had been rejected, but now it became accepted. And so although she planted those 60 seeds, one of them generated huge profit for her. So a results generating activity is what you do to be able to get an acceptance or a rejection. And most people don't know enough. I'm going to ask you, what are you doing? What have you done? And if you tell me a whole list of things that didn't generate a rejection, then I'll probably tell, or an acceptance, I'll probably tell you haven't done enough. And you'll say, well, I don't know enough. And I'll tell you, you have to be willing to take action, knowing that you don't know enough and that you will never know enough, that you'll bring a team of people around you to help you make that decision, but you got to make the decision. You're going to have to risk the failure or the rejection or the embarrassment or whatever is holding you back, and you have to make it happen. So real estate, when it comes to real estate, the results generating activities are looking for deals, number one. Number two, evaluating the deals, getting a score, a bargain finder score. And number three, writing offers. And those things are the things you got to do. If you have a to-do list for today, if those three things are not on your to-do list, you have not scheduled yourself to do enough. If you've scheduled yourself to read a book on real estate investing, good for you. It's not enough. If you schedule yourself to participate in a Zoominar where people are talking about real estate investing, good for you. It's not enough. If you are not actually taking action to look for deals, real deals, make real evaluations on whether they are good deals or not, and if they are good deals and score well, then you write an offer on them. Those are enough activity for you to generate a result, and you're going to generate mostly no's. When I went to San Francisco and they took away my wallet, gave me a $100 bill, and told me I had to buy a property in 72 hours like I said I could do, and the LA Times reporter watched me make dozens of calls to real people. We went to real estate offices. We talked to real estate agents. We got thrown out of the real estate office because we were making pretty crazy offers. We were invited to leave. That was a rejection. But since that didn't seem to be working, and we turned into another way of getting acceptances or rejections. Another ways of looking, another ways of evaluating, another ways of writing offers, until eventually I did write an offer 24 hours after I showed up in San Francisco with an LA Times reporter, and I bought my first property within 26 hours of landing at the airport the day before. Because I did enough. I got enough rejection. I got enough yeses and nos until finally one of them said yes. And I was able to buy it with no money, no cash, no credit, no cash flow, no collateral, nothing. So what I'm trying to say to you is, in every area of your life where you're trying to succeed, there are results generating activities. There are things that will get you closer towards the result you want. If you want to lose weight, reading a book about losing weight doesn't work. You have to do certain things, or maybe make sure you don't eat certain things at certain times. There are certain activities that will generate the weight loss. When it comes to finding a spouse, someone that you want to get to live with for the rest of your life, there are things you can do. You know, there are lots of rejections that'll probably take place until finally you get the acceptance that you're looking for. Reading, studying, praying, that's a good question. Is praying a results generating activity? It depends upon your belief, doesn't it? Do you believe that higher power, Heavenly Father, however you refer to your to the universe. Can the universe guide you towards a deal, a real estate deal? I'm going to tell you my opinion. It may not be yours, but I'm going to tell you absolutely that is a results generating activity, because that means you're involving the creator of all the real estate in the universe. Why wouldn't you ask? It says in the Bible, ask and ye shall find, seek and ye shall find, ask and knock and it shall be opened unto you. Well, did you ask? Did you expect? Did you hope? Did you say to your higher power, help me find a highly motivated seller, someone who really desperately needs to get rid of the property? They're probably praying to you right now. So I'll take care of them. I won't take advantage of them. I'll be honorable and ethical with them. I'm an investor. I need a good deal. But they need to sell. So let's work out an arrangement where we both win. Let's make it win-win. So we're now broadening out our concept of results-generating activities in everything you want to succeed at. It's all going to boil down to a few simple things you must do to generate a yes or a no. And if you don't do those things, it may be because the reason why you're not succeeding, because you're not doing those few 3 or 4 things that must be done, usually on a daily basis. So when it comes to your real estate investing, do you really want to succeed at real estate? If you're just a beginner, then put that into your calendar, your daily, for me, it's on my iPhone. My calendar's on my iPhone. I look on the things I got to do today. I program that in there, and I read that every day, many times a day, and I check off the things I said I was going to do, and I do the things that are most important first. But if I said that real estate investing was really important to me, and I had not written into my calendar, spend half an hour today trying to find a real estate agent that can help me, so I can look through the listing service to find out the properties that might fit my parameters. If you haven't located the right kind of finding person, then it should be on your to-do list, right? And then, is that person showing you properties? Did they show you any properties today? Well, if they haven't shown you any properties, then you haven't done enough. You need to have them show you properties today. And when they show you a property, they have to give you information on those 5 areas of analysis that I'm going to talk about in the very next Bobcast that we're going to do. The price, the condition, the location, etc. You're going to give it a score. Did you score it? If you didn't score it, you don't know enough. And if you scored it and it scored an 11 or more, did you write an offer? Was that your weekly goal, to write at least one real estate offer this week? And it doesn't matter where it gets accepted or rejected. Doesn't matter. You just have to do it. And most beginners, they won't do it. But that's not you, is it? Well, my friends, I hope that this has been an interesting conversation we're having about what you need to do to make it happen. And I will chat with you again at our next Bobcast. Well, we'll talk about the scoring system for the bargain finder. Have a great day. I love you. You're the kind of person I like to teach. See ya. Bye-bye.